My phone has a 5,000 milliamp battery. It means I can refilm this dozens of times. It's not a humble brag. It just sucks when you try to do a one take and you have to keep restarting it. How you doing? Joe here. Thank you guys for sitting through that. Let's talk today about a company that's doing something in 2021, 2022 that is actually almost inverse from what everybody else is doing. Before we get into that, Liberty Arms, Harrisonburg, Virginia, they let me borrow most of the things I show on the channel here, and I do purchase from them even though I'm an employee of the company. I don't get paid for reviews. They don't tell me what to say. They don't ask me to review certain items. In fact, half the time we have friends pick random stuff off the shelf to bring to me to review. So, full disclosure, I do work there. They don't pay me for the reviews. They don't tell me what to say. If they did, probably be a little bit better scripted, don't you think? But check them out. Good people, free coffee, and they will ship to you any FFL in the country. So that's awesome. Let's get back into this. The company that I'm talking about today is actually Kimber. Now, some of you were thinking I was going to say Smith & Wesson because they are flooding the market with firearms right now. However, that's not a good thing. If you flood the market with regular entry-level guns and raise the price, you're not doing anybody a service. You're just trying to justify your stock split or whatever they did this last year. No, I'm talking about Kimber, specifically these guys. There's a couple of different models they make that are reasonable, and that's the best way to put it. This is an MSRP of around $700 to $750. I don't think they put a minimum asking price, but they do have an MSRP. I believe it's $750. Depending on where you go, you can get some lower, or you may pay a lot more. This one, I will show you, is clear, nothing in it. Chambered in 45 ACP, it's the 5-inch model with the fiber optic front sight. This is called the stainless lightweight Arctic. I reviewed a Shadow Ghost recently, which was the same basic gun, but all dark tone. This one is in a light two-tone. What I mean by these guys are actually doing something positive for the industry is they are releasing, they are putting these out there at a reasonable price, sticking to that price point. They aren't gouging the end user, the stores, who then have to gouge customers. The fact that you can still get a high mid-grade 1911 for under $800 is pretty impressive. And you can get the all stainless version for about the same money, the GFO green fiber optic style, and you can get a lot of these features and still be under $800. On a 1911 is pretty impressive. And I know what you're saying, Glock guy. $800 is insane for a gun. Not for a 1911. You're going to get what you pay for. There are $400 1911s out there. There's $500 1911s out there. That is like entry level. There are $350 guns out there by companies I'm not going to name. ATI, specifically ATI. I don't recommend the ATI 1911s. Any of them. Yeah, if you can guess what company it was, ATI, you're doing pretty good. But I'd say 500 is where you want to come in at. Gerson, T-Sauce, even Rock Island, $500 will get you a starter gun that you can work with. Much less than that, yes, you can get a Glock for around $440, $400, whatever. But a 1911 is a different beast altogether. It's expected to be more expensive. That's why a 1911, that's why a good AR-15 can range in the $700 to $900 range, but you can get them as cheap as $350. ATI with their polymer frames and their steel inserts that crack their polymer frames. I'm sorry. You think I don't like ATI for some reason? Think they'll ever send me a gun for review? Let's get back to this guy. Front and rear slide serrations, something you don't see on a less than $600 1911. This one has different grips on it. It actually had some nice grips on it, but I didn't like them because they were Punisher grips. They didn't fit with the gun. Has a nice beaver tail with a extended memory notch. Believe it or not, this is the same depth as a standard memory notch, but it's much taller. It doesn't dive in as much, which actually allows you to get a better grip with your web of your hand. You can grip even higher and still activate the grip safety. Makes it easier to use. Adjustable trigger, I adjust mine all the way in so that it has basically what is a short trigger, not a long trigger. I don't like a long trigger pull. Single-sided safety. You can always put ambi safeties on these, but single-sided is perfectly fine. I rarely find a problem sweeping off a safety, even left-handed, even when they're super tight. Although, now that I said that, my finger is cramping. 8+1 single mag that comes with it. Don't care for the Kimber mags. I always swap these out. I have some nice Shooting Stars. That's why this one's empty. I have Shooting Stars and Chip McCormick mags. These guys are a little finicky when it comes to feeding into the gun when the gun already has a round in the chamber. What I mean is you load 8 in here, put it in the gun, rack the gun, put 1 round into the chamber, eject the mag, reload the mag with the 8th round. And when you go to put it in the gun, it's going to stop and you have to smack it into place because the notch is not big enough. It's a minor thing, but I don't want to go modifying a nickel-plated magazine out of the box. I'd rather just sell it and get some better mags. That being said, my experience with Kimbers otherwise means that the guns themselves are pretty solid. This one is finished in a two-tone. Basically, it's an anodized alloy frame. I believe it's mostly aluminum, but I think it's a mix. It's a little bit lighter than the stainless top, which I like. This is like a shot-peened, dull finish to it, which I really enjoy. It does have a green fiber optic in it, but I'll show you the box in a second to show you have choices. I will probably be taking advantage of it. I don't care for the rear sight. However, because it's flat topped, these low snag ones, they flat top the back of the slide. You can put an LPA sight on here without modifying it, which is nice and probably what I'll do. I prefer a blacked out, bigger rear notch to work with the front fiber optic sight. It has a standard bushing. It does have a a full-length guide rod with a open-ended plunger. That's okay, that's fine. I've never had one break or bind on me. Some people say it's not as smooth. Can't really say I've noticed the difference. No magwell. I can put that on if I really want to. And it has a flat rear mainspring housing. This one is metal on this gun. I think early versions had plastic ones. No front strap checkering. That is actually something you don't see on a lot of guns, although some of the Gersons will have them on the Ultimates, but again, those are $800 guns, so it is almost expected-ish, question mark. If you know a good machinist, they can get those put in there. However, to get 30 lines per inch, which is what the rear strap is, it's difficult to do aftermarket, so I would just take some skate tape, cut it, put it on there, and be done with it. It does have your standard A1 cuts here to make this a little bit easier to get your fingers around if you have smaller hands. I have big meaty mitts, so that's not a problem. Has the lowered ejection port. Early 1911s, the ejection port cuts way up here, and this one also has the chamfered or cut and relieved ejection port. Aids in injection, that's all it is. This is a Series 70 internal, which means it does not have a firing pin block, and the grips on this are from Gunn, G-U-N-N. They're on Amazon. I will link to them. I like these. They're a G10 material. They have a thumb cutout on the side here, so you get a little nice spot for your thumb, as well as it makes access to the mag release a little bit easier. It is a slightly extended mag release. As you can see, it sticks out a little proud, as well as the safety on the side. Very audible, very tactile. You know when it's on, you know when it's off. Slide lock slide release is standard. It's slightly bigger than like a GI model, but not by much. Has a nice internal extractor. The Ruger SR 1911 has an external one, and I think some of the SIGs have external ones. Don't quote me on that one. Haven't spent a lot of time with those. The only one I had was a Nightmare. It was beautiful. Other than that, the gun itself is pretty standard design. Front and rear slide serrations. A little call out on the side. Thankfully, it's not a different color. Has Yonkers, New York on this side, along with your serial number. And again, it's called the Stainless Lightweight, but the submodel is the Arctic. Let's take a look at the box real quick, because it's up against my back. Nice hard case. I do appreciate that. I actually hadn't looked in this until the first time I was filming this, and I filmed it 6 times since then, so stuff is a little jumbled around. You're just going to have to deal with it. You do get a bushing tool that's Kimber marked. That's standard with the gun. I'm glad they left it. This guy only had it for 9 months, 8 months. I have actually had the gun for about 3 weeks. He bought it in 2021. Still has all the stuff in there, although he's a smoker, so I'm going to probably throw away most of this. Gun lock, which isn't branded. I know I was saying that it's a reasonably priced gun, but $300 guns, even Tauruses, have actual printed gun locks that say what brand they are. Just a little thing, I'm just saying. It has a nice manual. This is probably where a lot of the money went, which I almost approve of. Very nice, thick manual, good pictures, good diagrams, show you how to take it apart. It's a 1911. You can take these apart with your eyes closed with both of your fingers tied behind your back. Yeah, definitely a smoker. That box needs to get fumigated. Probably get a different one. You can buy them on eBay. Let's go ahead and take it apart real quick for you. As you can see there, no mag in it. We will slide it back, lock it, and show you there's no rounds in it. See and feel. That's the way I like to do it. Take your finger, put it in there, wiggle it around, make sure you can't feel a bullet. You can look in there visually as well. Look, I'm Cyclops, and you can see that this gun is not loaded. Go ahead and drop the slide, but I would leave the hammer back. It makes it a little bit easier. Take your safety, lock it into place because you need to push down that bushing. As I said, this gun's been apart before, so I can actually do it even with just the base of the magazine. Hey, $700 mag gun with a nickel-plated bushing tool. There's your plunger. As you can see, it's hollow because the rod goes through it. Take your spring out. Come back to your bushing up here. Spin it around the other way. About to the 4:30 position, almost 5 o'clock, and then you can slide that off. Once you've done that, come back here. Drop your safety back down. You're going to bring the slide back. Doing this backwards over the gun. Pretty much hit it right there. To this notch. Second notch, the small one. Once you do that, you're going to push out your slide lock slide release. Again, trying to do this the wrong way. Normally I have this flat on a table, but I'm filming this a slightly different way today. But once you pull out your slide lock slide release, set that down. I like to flip the gun over just to keep the barrel from doing anything funny, and then you can pull it apart. I need to oil this one. This one has, again, the somewhat maligned full-length guide rod. Some people don't like this. I don't care either way. As I've said, I've never had one break on me. That's probably when I will change my mind whether or not I want to keep one. Barrel, as you can see, it has a larger than normal chamber, which is fine, which means it'll probably run some plus P's pretty good. It also makes it lock up more effectively along the top. This has the 2-lug lockup system. As you can see, there's 2 cuts on top of the barrel. They coincide with the 2 cuts inside the frame, or excuse me, the slide. So they lock up really tight, but it looks like it also will lock up against the front of the ejection port for an additional, or excuse me, the back of the ejection port for a little additional fun. Yeah, sorry, when I take it apart and I'm looking at it, I get things backwards. Hello. Swinging link, which is very common on 1911s. The only time you don't see that is if it's a officer or a very small variant of it. Taking a look inside, as you can see, no firing pin block, so you can just you push in the firing pin, you can drop that plate, you take the plate off. That also holds in the extractor. So once you do that, you can disassemble all of that. The only thing I've never really disassembled is like taking out the firing pin tube in the whole chamber or breech face, because there's no reason to mess with that. Otherwise, it looks to be manufactured very nicely. There's nothing that you need to take off. Something I do with a lot of my guns is I will come in here with an emery cloth or like a 1500 or a 2000 grit sandpaper and smooth the rails. It adds a little bit of extra smoothness to the gun, and while I don't recommend you smith your own guns, I have enough experience with 1911s that I can do it. The frame. This is the alloy part. It's extremely, extremely light. Like I said, it's upwards of 10 ounces lighter than the standard frame, which is almost a loaded magazine. So if you can get one and you like shooting it, awesome. I'll let you know how it works when I take it out. Again, very little use from the previous owner. I think he bought it, put it away, or carried it a little bit, but never fired it. Or if he fired it, he maybe put 1 mag through it. Very, very nice rails. Since it's a Series 70, you don't have any of the damage. I call it damage when they cut up the side of a frame to put the stupid firing pin block in it. And it just has your standard backstrap spring here, which when you pull the trigger, a yoke pushes backwards, pushes a little bit of spring, which then releases the sear, which lets the hammer go home. If you've ever owned the hardballer from back in the day, you'll know why that can go bad. Always make sure your sear is in good shape, kids. Not going to disassemble it any further. You don't need to. It's a 1911. It will outlive cockroaches. Let's go ahead and put it back together. Grab your slide. Take your barrel. Put the link in the down position when the barrel is upside down. Slide it in there. Doink. And lock it in using the lugs. Next thing I would do is take your bushing. Put it back in, again, 4:30, 5 o'clock position, and then flip it over until it's in the 9:15 position. I know I'm just being pedantically over precise. Take your link, make sure it's in the up position when the barrel is upside down so that you can get your guide rod in there. Guide rods that are full length can be a little finicky. This one went in just fine. I would then put your spring in there. You will see the spring has an open end and a closed end. Make sure you have the correct end on the guide rod. On this particular gun, the open end went on the guide rod. That way the closed end will sit flush inside of the plunger. That could be a reason why some people were having some jams. Don't know, let me know, because the plunger spring, or excuse me, the spring goes into the rear face of the plunger and locks in there. Don't put that back together yet. What you want to do is make sure now that your link is in the up position. Take your frame and your slide, keeping them upside down. Start the gun upside down. It's just a way to ensure that you get everything lined up first try. Just give it a little love tap. Chap, chap, chaparoo. Since this has a full-length guide rod, you can do that with it now, and you will see through the hole that the link should be lined up. Wiggle it a little bit if it isn't, but it should line up pretty easily. Take your slide lock, slide relief, start it in there. Do not push it all the way in. You see it sitting out there. If you push it all the way in and then try to spin it up, you're going to put le idiot mark. So what I'd like to do is I like to swing it up and then push down as I'm pushing up till you feel it lock into the first notch there. It's not fully seated yet. You're going to do that by bringing the slide back to where you took it down. Once you've done that, you can just kind of wiggle it into position. And this one hasn't been apart very many times, so you probably heard it snap. But now the barrel is locked in, so put the slide back forward, lock your safety back into position, take your plunger, put it over your spring. This is the part where you could lose a sealing tile. Ask me how I've done that. Take your base pad on your mag. It's better if you have a rubber base pad, but steel is fine. Just don't screw things up. And make sure your bushing goes over the plunger. Once you've done that, drop your safety. Rack your slide. Pull the trigger. You're good to go. Obviously, I showed you it was empty. When I reassembled it, I'm also pointing at a brick wall in a basement. We're safe. So that is my new to me, slightly used, but barely ever fired Kimber 1911 stainless lightweight. And as I said, in 2021, 2022, the fact that a company is willing to do that, make it a reasonable price. Sorry, I'm picking up my bullets. And keep releasing a product to the public at said price is pretty damn impressive. So if you want one, contact the store. They can get you the Shadow Ghost. They might be able to get you the Arctic. I really wanted to pick that one up because when I saw it, I was like, that's nice. But they can probably find one for you. Yeah, that's about it. Contact them. Let them know I sent you. They'll hook you up. They'll tell me I did a good job. They'll give me a pat on the head and maybe a couple of loose rounds of 45 because that's gold right there. Hopefully we'll get out to the range a little bit more this year, me and Daniel. I got to renew my membership, and we'll be able to go out and do a little bit of McPew review from the range. I don't need him to go with me, but it's boring when he doesn't. So come back for more. Again, if you're a member, you can go ahead and watch some of the other videos. If you're not, those will come out relatively soon. And as always, I'll talk to you later.